Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brian Sweat, and I'm the president of Alterity. Today, we're going to talk about Acctivate version 10. But just to give you a little idea of what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk a little bit about the strategy and position of Acctivate in the market and where we're going, and then also, of course, spend the majority of the 1 hour call talking about the new version 10. And I will spend most of the time in on a demo. And if you have any questions or follow-up, please let us know. Our support team's ready for your inquiries, and we'll help you out, and questions about upgrading to version 10 after the webinar today. Okay, so just to get started, we're going to talk about what's new in version 10. And this version of the software is a pretty big update for Acctivate users. It has been in development for probably about a year or so, simultaneous with version 9. So we've continued to make version 9 the most stable version of Acctivate ever, and our support team is very happy about that. We're going to shake things up a little bit with version 10 and make some pretty dramatic changes, but I think you'll see that we've continued to focus on our core solutions and core values in the product. So the first thing is that Acctivate remains focused on inventory management. So everything we're going to show today obviously has that theme. We're not becoming a project management or a CRM system or anything like that. Our core is inventory management, and that includes multiple warehouses, serial numbers, purchasing, sales, really just tracking products and giving you better tools to manage your inventory. Of course, what comes along with that is advanced purchasing. And we believe we have the best purchasing system in the market, allowing you to do drop shipments, special orders, reorder from your stocking levels, and track those serial numbers, lot numbers from your vendors. And it also purchase in one unit of measure and stock and sell in different units of measure. And so we've added a lot of functionality in purchasing over the year, and I think you'll see that we've enhanced that a little bit in version 10 as well. As most business owners are primarily concerned with sales, obviously Acctivate has a lot of focus on sales and customer management. So we're adding new ways to accept payments in version 10, and also really streamlining the process of bringing in orders from the web store, EDI, which is a big part of version 10, and other channels as they emerge. Acctivate also gives you metrics and data. It gives you the ability to research and compare information in your company, and allowing you to do reports with Crystal Reports, and also use database queries such as Microsoft Excel. And so we've added some functionality in that, especially a little bit better integration with Excel. We've had instructions on how to do Excel queries for years. We've added a couple little shortcuts that I'll show you today. And lastly, I hope everybody's on the call today to really help grow their business. So again, these new features and functions really allow you to expand the way you do business, and less effort it takes to manage inventory, manage orders, manage purchasing, and allows you to focus on growing your business, not running the day-to-day operations. We've got a lot of different people on the call today, and we serve a lot of different industries. So for example, our number one industry changes from time to time. Right now we're doing a lot of business in food and beverage. Auto parts and electronics have always been really big industries as well. But we're also seeing a boom in home furnishings and home decor, and industrial components and chemical supplies and manufacturing. So Acctivate is a horizontal product. It's built for all of your companies, not just one. And I think you'll see that today. Now, one thing you might have noticed already in the heading and on our website, we have a new look and feel. And we rolled this out in maybe April of last year, and we made an announcement on our blog. For those of you that don't read the blog, really there's two main things that came a part of this. Number one is we refreshed the brand name. So Acctivate with the exclamation. A lot of you didn't use that, and so we kind of dropped the exclamation. We did that about 6 months ago. And so Acctivate is written the way that most people were already writing it, with lowercase CCT. We also changed the logo to a new, what we're calling the Power A logo. And it's a little bit more friendly with Windows 10, as you can see in my taskbar. And also just kind of matches the look and feel of other applications. So it just kind of looks nice on your desktop. Not a big deal, not very functional, but just to kind of show you some aesthetics that we're working on. The login screen, when you first start version 10, it'll look a lot different because, again, we're moved to this new branding, these new colors. Rest assured, this is the same company, this is the same product, Acctivate. You didn't get the wrong software. And the changes are very much just the theming and the colors. As you can see, the company user ID and password looks very much the same. Once we get into the app, things start to look a little different. We've gone with a style that is not necessarily Windows 10 or Windows 8 It doesn't really look exactly like either one. Also doesn't look exactly like QuickBooks. We looked around at a lot of different styles and we picked one that we thought worked really well. Also was a smoother screen, a little bit lighter gray, just so it's a little bit more easy on the eyes. It doesn't look as much like Windows 98. And the customer information screen remains mostly unchanged. There's some minor differences that you'll see, but again, we've tried to not make too many changes all at once. We don't want to upset any of your users. Okay, some of the things we did change though, and this is for all of the companies on the call that have used Acctivate version 9 and prior versions, the sales order window has looked more or less the same for 15 years. When I first started with Acctivate, this window didn't have as much information on it. We added certain features, we added additional reference fields, we added marketing code, we added the ability to track the tax codes and the tax locations a little better. So we've added this functionality, and we just didn't have a lot of space working under old resolutions. So these old 15-inch screens that a lot of us had back in 2000, 1999, we've moved beyond that, and most of our users have widescreen monitors, and you can pick one up for $130, $140 these days. One of the problems and one of the complaints I've heard over the years is when training people how to use the screen. And there was a guy in my office who was actually a chief technology officer at another software company. And we were demonstrating the software to him, and he was looking at this screen right here. And it was up on a big screen in our conference room. And we were going to show him how to enter a sales order. And he interrupted us and said, "Wait a minute, where are the products?" And he said, isn't that the most important thing, is you're selling items? And I said, well, of course, you need to click the detail tab. So we told him, just click this little detail. And he shook his head and said, oh, okay, there they are. So there's the detail items. And once you're looking at the details, you don't see everything that was on the main screen. And it just is a little confusing. And we just said, that's the way it is. You have a header and detail. It's the way it's always been. And our customers learn to deal with it. But really, we thought we could do a better job, and now we have a little bit more screen real estate to work with. And for those of you that are using QuickBooks, we thought Intuit did a pretty good job of being able to display the customer's address, contact information, and also all the items on the order. And it works really well when you maximize your screen. Okay, so moving on to the next window here, this is a look at the new version 10 sales order window. And I'll leave this up for a few minutes as I talk about it. But you'll see we've combined the header and the detail tab into a single detail tab. And the detail tab contains, of course, the billing, the shipping address, the contact information, and that's in a text form. You can copy and paste that entire text box if you need to put it into an email message or a Word document. It's very easy to use. We've also combined some of the fields into locations that make more sense. So at the top right, you'll see our status of the overall order, and below that, and this isn't a great example, but you would see the workflow status right in line with that. And we think those belong together. And also at the very bottom, you'll see the special instructions and the shipping instructions for delivery. Those two boxes were previously on another tab that most people ignored, and you didn't even know that there were special instructions for the order. So we think this will be a lot more useful for your order processing people to be able to see that right there front and center. So a lot of the buttons are still there. All the functionality still remains. We've just kind of moved things around a little bit. In fact, there's even been some more changes based on customer feedback. So for example, this screenshot was taken a few weeks ago, and we had contract here, but we've also added the requested ship date. That was a recent change. So we've delivered this to some customers, and we're trying to get feedback and really make it a lot easier and a lot better to use than before. Okay, and just moving to another tab, here's another example of a pretty dramatic change we've made. When we first started with email integration, we allow you to drag and drop email onto a sales order, but you would just see a preview of it as you see on the left. But to actually look at the message and see the details of the email, you had to double click that email to open it. And so we've made a change that looks a lot more like Outlook and any other email app you're using. So as you select the items in the email grid, you'll see the message right there on the right. And that does include attachments. You can open them right there from the screen. So we've minimized the amount of pop-up windows, and you'll see that throughout. Now, one example of a pop-up that still remains is the Create Invoice window. It used to be called Release Order, but we think it's a little bit more appropriate to be called Create Invoice. That's what you're doing. So it's got some new information on it. The payment information is replicated. So you can either enter the credit card number on the payments tab on the previous screen, or you can actually enter it here on the pop-up window. And this does include credit card processing through our merchant services, which we'll show you later on in the demo. Once an invoice is created, it looks very much like the sales order. That window was very much old and out of date, so we did a pretty major overhaul to the invoice window, allowing you to see all the items and all the information on one screen, very similar to the sales order. Another complaint we had is that it was not resizable. I believe every window in Acctivate now is resizable. I don't think there's anything that was left untouched. In fact, even our web store configuration was often we got complaints about it not being able to make the wizard larger, and we've done that as well. So on the customer invoice, you can actually now see the sales revenue and the cost of goods sold all at the same time without scrolling back and forth frantically. We didn't just focus on sales. The purchase order window also got some attention. And just as a reminder, here is the older PO window from version 9 and prior. And this one is a really obvious need of an update. When you're issuing a purchase order to your vendor, the first thing we show on the main screen is the vendor's address, which I don't know why that's so important to you, because you're ordering from them. You're not delivering anything to that address. It's nice to know where they're located, but it's not that important. And then at the bottom, it's your own warehouse address. And if you don't know where your warehouse is, then you've got probably bigger problems. So that's usually the warehouse address or the customer's address if it's a drop ship. In that case, you probably would want to know where it's going. So anyways, the purchase order has the same problem where you can't see the products. And that's mostly what you're going to be focusing on when you're placing an order, is the items. So you had to move to the detail tab. Once you're looking at the detail tab, you can no longer see which warehouse this is going to or what customer it's being shipped to. So we have the same problem. Version 10, we did the same upgrade to the purchase order window. So the new PO window has the supplier and the ship information and the contact information all together at the top, and then the detail items are there. And this is a pretty low resolution screen that I'm showing right now. If you were on a 1080p, 22-inch monitor, 23-inch monitor, you can view quite a few items all at one time. Okay, and the last thing before I jump into the demo, which is where we'll spend the next 40 minutes, is colors and branding. Intuit had colors for years and years. They had the ability to change the theme of QuickBooks. And some of them were interesting, like you could make it blue jeans or this kind of orange colors, and they had some interesting choices. I didn't think it was a big deal, and we never really talked about it. And then a couple years back, I think in 2013, they removed the ability to change colors, and they gave everyone this dark blue, bluish gray color theme. And I looked in some online forums, and a lot of customers were in an uproar saying, "You took away my colors, give them back." And it was a big deal. So then in 2014, they added colors back in. We watched this happen and really decided at that point that we needed the ability to customize the theme of Acctivate based on the company. So a good example that would apply to everyone on the call is you should have a model company or a practice company if you've been with us for a long time. And what I recommend is using your company's colors, whether it's blue or green or orange. Use that for your theme, for your primary company, and then maybe use a red or a black, some color that would stand out for your model company. So you have a visual cue that you're in the wrong company file and you don't accidentally process an order in the wrong database. For companies and users on the call that have multiple companies, this is really great then, because then you can color code your different companies. And I'll show you where this is at. It's in the company information section of configuration. And we have a lot of different choices, and then you can customize and choose any actual specific color that you want. So these are just some standards we have. Okay, so let's pause just a minute while I switch gears and jump into the demo. And just as a reminder, I'm running at a very low resolution just to be able to show the screen really well through the webinar today, and also make sure it's large enough that you can see what we're doing. So this is really below our minimum spec, minimum requirements, which is 1024 by 768. This is actually running at 720p, which is a low resolution for a computer. So things look pretty big. On your screen, they'll look about the same scale as they were before. Okay, so as we get started, this is a copy of our Southwestern Industries demo company. So we're selling office supplies, and I just want to go through some of the things we've done, and we can start with the branding. So whenever you upgrade to Acctivate 10, one of the first things you might want to do is take a look at our new company options. So under company information and configuration, you'll see a new thing called window color. And you can just go in here and choose any color you want. So if you want to switch it to red, you just choose that item and then it will stick. On the far left, this is our new Acctivate Blue, which will be the default. Since we didn't have the ability to do themes before, everyone will start off with Acctivate Blue. I think it looks pretty nice, but that's just personal preference. Okay, so once we've done that, you'll see that will change it for all users. So you will not have to do this per user. It is at the company level. The other thing you'll notice is the icons have changed. We've done this once before. It's been 6 years since we changed icons. They are variations on a theme. So the edit button is still a pencil. The save is still a floppy disk. But we have a lot of new look and feel, a little bit more subtle colors, a little easier on the eyes. But you'll see the dashboard looks the same. Business alerts more or less is the same. What you'll start noticing though is there's a lot of little improvements we've made that are quite nice and I think you'll grow to like. Number one is the business alerts. We allow you to keep changes for each user. So if I log in and I like to look at all open orders in the entire company, it's going to remember that every time I close and log out and reopen it, it's going to remember exactly where I was. Another user might want to look at Floyd Harris's orders only. So when I reopen that window, it's going to remember the filters that I had on all of the tabs. So that includes sales orders, purchasing management, inventory management. If my job is to only manage the Dallas warehouse, then I can leave that filtered and it will stay filtered in the future. Okay, so just kind of remembers our settings. Now, one of the things you can do is, if you've got a huge data list here, a lot of companies, and probably you as well, have asked for this to be in Crystal Reports or export to Excel. And we can do that. We can definitely create a custom report for you that gives you the exact same information available here. But we're often looking for shortcuts. And so we've done that. Most of the grids that can be resized and resorted, you can now right-click and choose Send to Excel. And if you do Send to Excel, it will take the data that you have filtered on the screen in the sequence, and it will just open an Excel file, a new file, and dump that information into Excel. And at this point, you can resize the columns, do whatever you want with the data. But we just wanted to give you a really quick and fast, easy way to do that. Okay, so that export to Excel exists on all of these grids. It also exists for the product information window, like the history tab, the transactions tab, any grid that you can size. The data entry grids don't support this, like sales order doesn't exactly do this. It's really the management grids only. Another thing that we've been working on, and you'll see this even in some version 9 updates, every window now, the resizing is much better. It doesn't flash anymore, although you may see some flashing on the webinar today. But once you actually upgrade, a lot of the window rendering is much smoother now as we've upgraded. And you'll see that it also remembers the size of each window. So if I get the window just right, and I like it like that, when I reopen it, it's going to go to that same size as I had it before. Before we get into a lot of the big features and changes, I wanted to point out one thing on the toolbar. You might see this and go, what's that new feature, price check? We have relabeled a function that we've had for a long time. We used to call it quick quote, and there's a lot of confusion. People said, if it's a quick quote, why can't I convert it into a standard quote? And we said, well, no, it's just if you've got someone on the phone and you want to give them pricing, that's what it's designed for. So we, for 4 or 5 years now, I've been saying it's just a price check tool. And then finally, I threw it around the office. I said, why don't we call it price check? Because that's what it is. So this tool, you've already had it for years. And it's just the ability to put in a customer, and then it applies all their pricing rules. So when I choose this item, it's going to give the correct price code for this customer, for under this contract and this discount. So it'll give you that pricing information. If you want to enter a quote quickly, you need to go to the sales quote window. That's what it is. That's what it's for. So there's been a lot of confusion in training, so hopefully we made that a little easier to explain to your staff. The next thing that I want to announce and just kind of talk about, and a lot of companies may not know who this service is, and I'll just kind of go through this quickly. I hope I don't bore you. But Acctivate has had credit card processing with the QuickBooks Merchant Service for many years. We obviously partnered with Intuit to work with QuickBooks, and at the time they asked us to use their credit card processing, and it looked good. And we, for full disclosure, Alterity, our company, we do use QuickBooks Merchant Service. But over the last 10 years, we've seen a lot of different merchant companies come and go, and by far the most requested into our staff and our implementation and support teams in sales has been Authorize.net. And Authorize.net is now actually a Visa company, so they're very well backed. It's a good service. They're very competitive. And we now give you the choice of either QuickBooks Merchant Service or Authorize.net for your merchant services. This is credit card processing for those of you that are not familiar with it. So when you come in here, you will need to configure your Authorize.net API login and transaction key. And we'll help you out with that. But I just want to kind of throw that out here that you do have the ability to do that. If you switch from QBMS to Authorize.net, you will need to choose one or the other. We do not support two different merchant services, one for certain customers and one for another. So today you do need to pick between the two. And we think that's pretty standard for most of our customers. They're only going to deal with one company for credit card processing. Okay, so just to show you an example of what that's going to look like, if we open up a customer here, and let's do an order for Abercrombie and Smith. And this company, we actually have their credit card information stored on file. So if I go to the customer window, the credit tab, we have actually recorded their credit card number. They have let us keep that information and the expiration date and the name on card, address, and zip code. We are still not permitted to store the card security code. So that's only used at the time of authorization. Once you've done that, you have to re-enter it in the future again. So we'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. Now, first thing you might notice if you've been doing credit card processing is we don't, at the bottom of the window, we just end with the instructions. There's no more payment section at the bottom. It was very small and we couldn't fit the required fields in that section across the bottom. So we've actually moved that to its own dedicated tab. So when you're processing an order here, you can say, okay, they're going to pay by Visa, MasterCard, and then the information based on the payment type will change. So if they're going to pay by check, well, it copied that number. It's a little weird, but they would ask you for the check number and the amount. If they're going to pay by credit card, then it's going to ask you for the credit card number. So this is where you would enter that in. And the security code if you have it. And a lot of times that doesn't make a difference in your fee, but it's just something to be aware of. So we have the credit card number in here now. Once you save that, it will encrypt that credit card number and it is not going to come back out, but it works. So we create the invoice. You'll see that information is copied here as well. You can delete that and retype a different credit card number. You will need to enter the card security code. I guess I shouldn't have done that. The only thing that has not changed, we've had people ask, we are required for you to take action to explicitly say that you will charge the credit card. So we can't just automatically charge a card without some box saying that that's what you want to do. So you're going to check charge CC, then we're going to create an invoice for $175 and charge the credit card for that amount. You can do a lesser amount if you wanted to keep a balance open. So if you wanted to charge $100, you could do that. But I suspect most of you will be doing the full amount. Once you create the invoice, ooh, that one failed. I think I don't have the right number here. Let's see if this one's better. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, well, that's what happens in demos. So I have a dummy account set up. It's not a real account. So I think I may have lost my settings on that. So anyways, the payment information will be there for those of you that do set up Authorize.net, but we can just move along. So going back, just showing you the sales order window now that we've got it open. The information, the billing address, again, you can enter that directly here or you can copy and paste it. We still have a pop-up window for separate fields. If for some reason it's not parsing it right or not putting it in the right sequence, you can always use that window. We also have our Google Maps button right here, which will open a browser and take you right to that address. Okay, the contact information has changed as well. There's a pop-up window for that information. If you wanted to change it or enter it in, you can type over that. You can also just copy and paste that into a message or anything else. Oh, this is the new version that has the requested date. These are the most commonly used fields for Acctivate customers. So we have the terms code, the branch, what method of shipment, and then we've also consolidated the carrier and the service dropdowns. So in prior versions, you had to choose UPS first and then choose ground. Now we've actually combined them together, and you'll see that here. They're actually combined so you can see them all in one list. Okay, so we have the workflow status up here. It just makes that a little bit easier to use. The instructions as discussed. The shipping tab replicates the requested date and some of the information, such as the carrier service. So you can look at all the shipping address, any notes for that location, and you can make the changes here, and it will update the other tab as well. So if we were to change it to next day air, then when we go back to the next screen, you'll see that it's changed it there as well. We can change the additional advanced fields, like don't ship it before, before the first, and don't ship after the end of the month. You can put in that those fields haven't been lost, they've just been moved off the main screen. So you can get to your products faster. The customer tab is more information about the billing, the account information. So what contract we're supplying this order under, what type of customer they are, if there was a marketing code. And then this is an override to change the whole order to either be non-taxable, but most people don't need to change this once it's configured. We went through the payment information, if you have a recorded payment with the order. And the additional info tab has all that additional stuff. And you'll notice here the custom fields are included here now in a list. Didn't set any up for the demo, but they will appear on a list with a scroll bar here. So we got rid of the separate custom tab. And this is where you'll see the web store order number, EDI order number, and then we've also made some changes to make these dates a little easier to read. So before we had the full date and time, now we're actually showing it in relative, this is kind of like Facebook or something like that. It shows, 4 hours ago, 6 hours ago, 1 day ago. And if you want to see the exact time, you can put your mouse over that and a little pop-up will appear that will give you the exact date and time. List of invoices hasn't changed. Notes are the same, activities, packages tab. And again, that email, this is not a good order. It's a brand new one. I should have an order. I think this one has some emails. You can actually see how that works. So right here, you'll see this is an email I sent out of Acctivate a couple weeks back, and you can double click the PDF right there to view that. And if you maximize this window, it'll be a little bit easier to read if it was a large message. Okay, and you can still hit edit, and you can drag and drop any messages onto this panel. Now, after I change the dates, you'll notice if you look up here on this tab, there sometimes will be warning icons for certain tabs, and that's to draw your attention to something without as many pop-ups as we had before. So on the shipping tab, you'll notice here, this order was requested to be shipped on July 18th, and now it's 54 days late. So we are using these little icons to draw your attention to something. If the customer was over limit, you would see that as well in the customer tab. Okay, one last thing. This is just a quick note I had because a lot of customers have asked for it. If you pull up a completed order, you can now add notes to completed orders. Let's go look here. So this is a completed order. In older versions, you couldn't edit it at all. You couldn't make any changes. Now we allow you to manage notes and emails for completed orders. And you can hide, if this is just an informational message, you can check that box so you don't see that every time. And that's just to warn you why you can't make changes to the items. Once the order's been shipped complete and invoiced, you can't go in and change any items. So we can just go in here and say, we can just put a little note here, and that's going to date stamp it, and then we could do a follow-up if we wanted. Most companies are working around that by creating a related business activity, so you can still do that business activity from a sales order. But if you just want to put notes on it, go right ahead, and we allow you to do that now. And also, if you do a new order for any customer that's on credit hold or over their limit, I think I fixed this one, but when you approve credit, we don't ask you for the password if you're actually logged in by a sysadmin user, because you could obviously go in and change things in system administration anyways. So it's just going to come up as a default. If you are a restricted user, it will still require that someone come to your desk and type in the password. Okay, so let's keep the theme of sales going, and we'll talk about one more thing that affects a lot of you. We are seeing more and more customers sell via EDI, which is the technology used to sell to big box retail, to grocery stores, any large company that's asking for electronic invoicing. For the most part, they're going to ask for you to use EDI. And we've had EDI support since day one. I mean, we started with a company in 1999 with Walmart. So we have a lot of experience with EDI. But it's always been a secondary product to Acctivate. So there was a separate app you ran called EDI Manager. Well, in version 10, we have actually dropped EDI Manager. When you upgrade, you'll see that it goes away. You can't run it anymore. And now you will see EDI built into the main product. So if we look here on the main menu, you'll see a new EDI button and then an EDI menu up ahead. So if we click EDI, it's going to take us to an all-in-one window, which actually is going to process all of your trading partners and all of your transactions as well. All or some, it's whatever you want to do, but it's going to give you the tools to process them all at once. And this is really important for companies who are selling to a lot of different retail stores. So if you sell to Home Depot and Lowe's and Target and Walmart, in the past, you had to process each trading partner one at a time. And now Activate's going to go out to your inbox and it's going to find the transactions, whether it's from TrueCommerce, SPS Commerce, whatever service provider you're using. It's going to find those files that are available, and it's going to give you these little street lights, green, yellow, or red, based on whether the file is ready to be processed or not. So for Abercrombie, which is one of our customer trading partners, we did find a purchase order, and it's ready to be looked at and processed, and it's good to be imported. The item above it is ABC, and ABC is another trading partner we do business with, but it got flagged as a warning. So it found 2 items and one warning. And when we expand that tree, you'll see right here it says could not find match for product. And this is our EDI lingo for the vendor's part number, the buyer's part number, and the UPC code. And if you're doing business in retail, you're probably very familiar with these codes. So in this case, I could not find this part. And I know that I have a product. They call it B1. They think it's B101. It's actually B10. But if I look at that product, I don't know why it didn't match on the UPC number. So if I come here and I bring it up, let's say there was a typo. So someone put an S here in the UPC. So rather than trying to tell ABC to change their UPC number, they got it right, we had it wrong. So I can hit save there. And when I switch back to this window here, I can hit F5 to refresh, or I can hit the refresh button here at the bottom, and it's going to rescan the inbox, and it's going to find those transactions. And now we're all green, so we can import the records. Okay, so now we did bring in two items, and it actually created just one order. If you had 50 orders or 100 orders, it would give you the range of order numbers, so you would see which orders got created. The same is true for any transactions that we import. You can choose to save these results to a text file like you had before. We don't do that by default, so you'll have to look in the actual system log, or maybe you don't care. I mean, this is pretty basic information. So those orders got imported. If I close out of EDI and let's switch over here to the history tab, we should see at the top, let's sort, we should see a couple new sales orders that got created. That order was actually from 4 days ago. It was from September 6th. So I'll see that order here. And we've got the order number here. There is a warning on the customer. As I said before, this customer is over limit. I should go ahead and approve that. And we have a new EDI tab. For any EDI orders, you'll see some additional fields here. If there was any additional information in the file, you'll see it here, such as the actual date of the import file. That's the date that's in the file. Mark 4 is for a store number. Any other special codes that we've set up for you will appear here. If we go back to the products, this EDI order is shipping out of our big warehouse, which is the warehouse code B. And that is a third-party logistics warehouse, which is another thing that we're seeing a lot of. And in this case, it just means that when we ship to Abercrombie, we are Southwestern Industries, and we ship to Abercrombie, we don't ship it out of our own inventory warehouse that we own. We actually ship it through a third-party logistics company. So this order is ready to be shipped. Let's go ahead and save that. So what I need to do now is I need to transmit that to the third-party logistics company. And that's part of our standard EDI processing window. If there were any new customer POs, they would appear here. But now the only thing that needs to be sent is one order for 2 items needs to go to our big warehouse. If you had multiple warehouses, you'd see them here. If you had 100 orders, it would indicate that here as well. So at this point, I can process that. It's going to create a file. It gives you the file name. This is the big warehouse 940 with today's date and time .text. If you right click, you've got some other information, you can copy this to your clipboard. If you want to put it in another system or notes, there's a lot of information. You can save the file as well. But for the demo, I just want to show you kind of an idea of what it's done in the background. So we have an EDI inbox outbox, and it's just created that file here, the big warehouse. And this file goes to your warehouse, and it gives them some EDI special data that they need to process the order. Once they've processed the order, they're going to send you back the record of shipment. So I'm just going to, it's like a cooking show. I'm just going to show you, do that real quick, pretend it just happened. So within that file, you've got your shipment data, what products they shipped, how many units, and the tracking numbers. So when I go back to EDI, and I can just hit refresh, then now the warehouse actually processed 2 shipments for that sales order. So they shipped each item separately, and now it's ready to import those shipments. So we'll go ahead and do that. It's finished. And now since we've brought in that shipment, if we go back to the sales order, which I think is 15229T, right. On the packages tab, we'll now see the tracking numbers and the items, which you can double click to show that UPS. That's nothing new. That feature has been there before. Now we're ready to send the notice to the trading partner. It's ready to go. So we can tell Abercrombie that their items are on the way. And then when we're ready to invoice it, it's the same process. So we create the invoice. We'll probably not process any payment. They're going to pay us on terms like all retail stores do. And we'll go ahead and create that invoice. Now that the invoice is completed, we come back over here. It will show up here as an invoice that needs to be sent to Abercrombie. And our invoice has now been sent. So we don't have to switch applications. The EDI process has been streamlined to give you all this functionality. You can process 50, 60, 70 trading partners all with a few clicks. Of course, there's the process of actually shipping the orders. But if you work with a third-party logistics company, really all you're doing is bringing the data in, sending the data out, and just managing that process. The other thing we've done with EDI is added a configuration section to manage your trading partners. So if you go and look at Abercrombie, for example, this will show all the customer records linked to that trading partner. For most of you, that will be one, but we do have companies that want to segregate by distribution center. They want a different customer record for every DC and its stores, or they may actually want to have a separate customer record for every single store. So you have that ability, and you can see that here. The purchase order options are right here. This is pretty advanced stuff, but it's nice for our support team to go through it with you. You can choose whether you want the orders to be booked or scheduled, and then how we look for product IDs, the sequence we use to go match products. And ASN options, the format you want to use, and the invoice options. So for example, ABC is another trading partner we have. In this case, maybe I want to change ABC. We don't get EDI purchase orders, but I want to send all invoices to ABC. So I can make that change. And then when I go back to EDI, you'll see that it's now found a couple orders that need to be sent to ABC. In single click, we can send those out. Okay, so EDI's got huge improvements, big changes, a lot better error handling, a lot better messaging. We allow you to do the configuration, lets you discover the files. So once you bring them in via FTP or transfer from TrueCommerce or however you get it, we'll be able to process them very quickly and easily. Now, one of the things, of course, not just when dealing with retail, is after you've sold the products and you've shipped them, we also often have customer service incidents and problems, RMAs, returns, that sort of thing. And we still recommend the business activity module for managing customer service, but sometimes part of that customer service would be doing a trace or a track on a lot number. And it's a really good time of the year to talk about that. A major ice cream company just went through a recall that many of you are probably very aware of. And one of the things they have to do is find who are the customers that had that product, or where did we ship it to. And in Acctivate, we give you some ability to go look at lot numbers for a product. So if I bring up, let's say, a product that is a lot numbered, let's bring one of these up. If we have a lot number product, you can see the lot numbers here. You can go to the transactions tab, and you can actually search for lot number. So I can do 2015-0623, and I can see all the transactions for that lot number. So it was assembled on June 23rd, and we sold a little bit here, a little bit here, and a little bit here. The problem with this approach is that it is only for a single level of assembly. And we have a lot of companies, well, actually, let me repeat that. This is an assembly. So we're not even showing you the components that went into this item. So when we talk about coffee medium roast, this item's actually made up of these roasted coffee beans. And if I go look at those items are actually assembled and roasted from green coffee. So we get the raw bean that we buy. And if we go look at that item, I hate to confuse you with this, but this is the way it is for a lot of companies. This is where we actually bought it. So we received a different lot number for the green coffee, and then when we roasted it, we actually have a new lot number that we want to generate. And then when we sell it, that's even a different lot number. So we use lot dates in this case, like date codes. And this is the date it was manufactured. And then if you look at the actual lot expiration date, it's different. So this isn't the expiration date. This is the date of manufacture. So how do we trace and track all these transactions? So we added a new feature in version 10. And the lot number modules or add-on modules, you do need to talk to sales. If you don't have lot numbers, if you're not tracking it today, you will need to contact us to discuss that. But I will show you the functionality today. So we've done some assemblies and we've done a lot of transactions here for the coffee, taking it from green to roasted and then finally to a saleable product, which is a packaged 1 pound bag. So if I want to start a new trace, and I do want to track in trace, which means go back and forth. So if I were to trace an item that was in the middle of an assembly, it would show where it was sold to and where it came from. And that's going to be the default. For most companies, if you have a lot number, you want to see everything you can about it. So then you need to choose an item. So in this case, we'll do this medium roast coffee, and then you need to pick a lot number. So I think this one will work. So this lot number here, we see a lot of information here, and I'll kind of go through this slowly so everybody understands what we're looking at. So just to kind of recap my story, we buy and we receive green coffee, and we bought this item back in June. And the lot number was the 618 because we're actually assigned a lot code to that when it came in. And then we have here, it was used as a component in an assembly. All 1,200 pounds of green coffee was roasted into a finished item called roasted Java, and that was on 620. And then that was actually used as a component along with some other items to build the coffee medium roast, 1,160 pounds. And the numbers are changing here, and that just goes to kind of explain this is process manufacturing. So when you start out with 1,200 green pounds, you're going to end up with 1,175, probably less. And then by the time we actually package it, we have some more waste and damage. So it's actually, we're going to use all of it, but we're only going to generate 1,160 pounds. So when we end up with 1,160 pounds, that's the end result. And then finally at the bottom, we have the customer sales order. So we'll see that these items were sold. And down here, we actually show a diagram, a usage graph that lets you kind of drill down. And if you had a major product with hundreds of orders, this really comes into handy to kind of get you to the place where this item was used in the grid. So for this lot number that I'm tracking right now, I can actually go back and find what were the lot number or numbers that were used for its component. And then was that also an assembly showing the component over here? So again, this is the usage graph that shows you all this information. Now, when we do this, it's not just a report. So we're not just going to print this one time and then be done with it. We allow you to track all kinds of notes here. So we could say, FDA recall, need by Friday, something like that. If they give you a document number, you can assign that here. If there's a reference, maybe it was, some code there, who knows, doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want with it. We can save this information. And then we can also add notes and email messages, just like you've seen in other documents in Acctivate. And we can track all the communications that took place on this trace. And we can also link it to business activities and attach documents using SmartVault. So we've got a lot of functionality we can do here. And then once you're done, we're going to put this in a new database table that will allow you to build reports and any custom reports you want off of this trace details. So in our software, we've actually walked through all the manufacturing process to generate this. So we can hit the printer button here, and this is just a default report that we have now. We will customize this if you need. You can work with your implementation team or a consultant that can help you with the reports. And this would just show all the items, the sequence of events that took place for this lot number for this product. And as all of our reports that use products or order numbers, you can drill down by double clicking. And so if you want to go see this order, just double click it and it will open that sales order for you. Okay, but getting back to the actual trace function, lots of functionality are very powerful. This is the first release of this function, and we're definitely looking for feedback and patterns and how you're using it. Really excited. And the one thing I will leave you with on this track and trace is the original demand for it. People are concerned about the FDA or other regulatory government, control organizations. But I think this is also really important for quality control. And I think that you'll actually use it more. Hopefully you'll never be a part of a major recall. But really the big use for it is when the customer calls in. If this customer called in from A1527 from that sales order and they said that it didn't taste right, maybe it's not not tainted and it's not bad, it's just the quality wasn't good. So use this tool for quality and for customer service primarily. And then that will let you go back and find out who are the other customers that had it. You can print the report. You could filter the report on orders only. You can actually go to Excel if you want to dump this in an Excel file and work through it, filter it some more. You put your own location, notes, anything you want to put on there. But this will just be a way to do some proactive customer service. Okay, so there's some other changes we made, and I just want to go through these quickly, but let's say that you're not interested in track and trace because that's not really in your industry, but you still track serial numbers or lot numbers. We've made a number of changes that I should mention today. Number one is we've expanded the lot number length. There are some reasons why it's short. It can't be 1,000,000 characters, but we have expanded that from 25 to 40 characters. So now if you have serial numbers that are quite lengthy and you want to put in instead of just the actual serial number, let's say you want to put the date, the serial number in some other designator, you can do that and go up to 40 characters. Also, when you go to sell a serial number or a lot number, let's go through here, and when we go to do the lookup to choose our lot numbers or serial numbers, if we hit the pop-up window here, if you start using expiration dates, we will actually sort by expiration date as a preference over the serial number. We don't really have expiration dates on that, but I think the coffee actually does. Yeah, so if you had lot numbers, I don't have a lot of data to show you, but we are sorting that by expiration date. And also, if you have a lot number that you didn't sell, but maybe it was before you use Acctivate, or it was some other company that sold, but you want to bring it back in. If you do a credit memo, you can now enter new lot numbers or new serial numbers, and they can be established for the first time by a credit memo. Used to, you would have to sell it first, and then the only way you could bring back and give a customer credit for a lot number is if you sold it, and that's changed. And lastly, one of the other improvements we made on inventory receipts, if you're processing inventory receipts for a serial numbered item, then it will copy the attributes down. So if we start our first serial number here and we put the expiration date to be May 1st, 2016, we have a QA code, and then we have some notes here. Large printers, I don't know, it doesn't matter. When you go to add that item again, if you choose the same product, then it will copy down that information. So you can put in the serial number quickly, and this is not from a purchase order, so I'm just doing it by hand, but it allows you to just put in the product ID and the serial number, and it will copy all those attributes, because we realize that most batches of purchase orders, they're going to have the same expiration dates and usually the same reference codes, but you do need to record the unique serial numbers. So that's just a little feature we threw in there. A couple other changes. There's a lot of things I'm not covering today because of time, but I do want to wrap up on time. But another thing that we've made is just kind of simplify the QuickBooks synchronization. So we've also worked to make it faster. We've added indexes, and we've done some work with the QuickBooks SDK over the years to make it better and better. But one of the things we found that companies were intimidated by were all these options. They still work. You can still use options to only synchronize customers, but in most scenarios, we don't recommend that you only sync customers. If you're connecting to QuickBooks to run the sync, you should synchronize the whole company at one time. There are some scenarios where maybe you don't have permission to everything in QuickBooks, and Acctivate will check those permissions, so it's not like we're bypassing Intuit's security, but just try to do it all. And you can hit Start Sync here. It is the same functionality. When you hit Start Sync, it's going to give you that old screen that shows you all the items. You just don't need to use those options, okay? So that's kind of a big improvement there. And also, one thing that you might see very quickly when you upgrade to version 10, when you go to do a database backup, we really are checking your database server to see when the last time you backed it up was. And we can do that even if you're using a third-party tool to do your backup. Microsoft keeps track internally of when the last backup was made. So when you close Acctivate, you will get a message now that says, you haven't backed up in 7 days. You really need to make a backup. And what we did years ago, we started that morning, and we had a checkbox that said, don't show me this again. And we continually get calls from companies that do not have a recent backup, sometimes a month or 2 months ago. I've seen even worse than that. So we've actually brought that back, and now the database backup warning, you can delay it. You can delay it for a couple days, but you cannot completely dismiss it. So if it's been 3 months since you've been backed up, you will start to see that message, and you'll have to continually dismiss it or delay it. What I would recommend is when you see the message, talk to your administrator, your IT person. If they don't know how to set up the backups and they can't read our help site, the information on how to do it, then I would have you contact Acctivate support and just let us know what's going on. And if you have a problem with it, we can help. The last thing that I want to show as we close out here and we wrap up is when you close Acctivate now, we have a new prompt. And I've personally seen many people do this. Intuit added this first. We saw them do it. I've seen some other programs do it. If you accidentally hit the X button at the top of the window, let's say you're working in a sales order and you have this toolbar, let's say this toolbar, maybe you want it on the side. So you move it over here. So the X button for the sales order and the main program are really close together. And that's a Windows design. I'm not sure we're really going to change that. So the new thing we've done is if you accidentally click that, you should keep this prompt up. And I would recommend that you don't check this box. Just deal with it, and you'll be happy with it. So if you accidentally hit it, just choose no, and you won't be prompted to save all your changes and be completely kicked out of Acctivate. So just again, we've added that warning to make sure you're closing out quickly. So that concludes my demo. I just have a couple things to wrap up with, and just want to remind you guys that Acctivate version 10 is just the next update in a series of future planned enhancements. Our roadmap is already well underway for the next release. Another thing that is a kind of a thing to consider for you, we've updated to version SQL Server 2014 in our new installs for our new customers. And if you're on an older version of Microsoft SQL, it might be something you need to look into. If you're not sure how to look for that, maybe ask your IT administrator. Just mention that Acctivate runs on Microsoft SQL. And if you're on 2005 or 2008, it might be a time to upgrade, especially if you're on the free Express edition. There's really no reason not to upgrade if you're on Express. If you're on Standard, you will need to purchase a license upgrade. That gets a little more complicated, and you will have to buy that. We don't sell licenses for any Microsoft products, so you'll have to contact an administrator for that. The other thing that comes up a lot, and I just want to kind of refresh everybody's information on this, Acctivate does have a lot of deployment options. Most of our companies are still running on-premise with a Windows server, and we do always support the latest version of Windows. Feel free to upgrade your Windows server when those new operating systems come out. We do update our system requirements. It sometimes takes a little bit longer to make it official, but contact our support team if you got a question. In the cloud, a lot of companies are starting to run Acctivate, move it into the cloud because they don't want to upgrade their server and they want to be able to get to it anywhere and easily access your data. We've got a couple different providers. Right Networks is the preferred QuickBooks Enterprise hosting partner. And so we've partnered with them, obviously, and we got a lot of companies on Right Networks. They do all the upgrades for you. We'll be scheduling the version 10 upgrade with them over the next couple weeks, and we'll reach out to all of our customers on Right Networks. Novel Aspect is a company that approached me about a year ago, and we've been working with them. We've had a lot of customers going to them, and they offer an alternative to Right Networks. It's a very different approach. It works really well on a Mac and get to it through the browser. It's a little easier to access. But I think you have to work with them to do the upgrades. There's some pros and cons of both approach. And lastly, we also work with InSync, who will give you a dedicated virtual machine in the cloud, and it fully supports QuickBooks, and they'll help you with your upgrades as well. So these are three of what I would say are most popular hosting partners right now. We do work with a lot of others, but those are the three that come up the most. So I just wanted to cover that with you today. And kind of lastly, where we like to end on most of our webinars, is just an advertisement for the help site. We launched the Acctivate help site a few years back, I think almost 3 years ago. We had a knowledge base before that wasn't updated very often, and we've actually really gone all in on this WordPress-based site. Allows you to use Google search to get to all of our content. You can manage now, in the last 6 months, you can now manage your support request and start GoToAssist and do chats all from the same website. So the help site, help.acctivate.com, is a really great resource. If you're not using it, I definitely encourage you to check it out. And just as a follow-up to that, all the support resources have been moved, and they're now on the support site in a nice, easier to use interface. And when you're on a support request, you can actually start a chat session. This is just an example of what it looks like. And I think it's just really an easy way to get a hold of our team, and we've got people standing by on chat all the time. And the number one question on webinars is, will this be recorded, or can I go back and watch it? And we try our hardest to get them up as soon as possible. And we make all of our webinars available at help.acctivate.com/webinars. And that does include third-party webinars from our partners. Even the screenshot, I didn't even notice that till now. The April 2015 webinar was Michelle Barr from Firefly. So she actually hosted a webinar, and we've had Donovan Sachs and a couple other guys from different certified partners. So that's a really good resource for you, and that's free. That's included. Software maintenance is what pays for these services. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We're just at 1 hour of the presentation. This is about the level that I wanted to get to today. Of course, I could spend all day going through all the great things we've done in version 10. We're just definitely looking forward to the future. Version 11 is already under development now, and we've got some big plans for that. And I think you'll see the focus is going to remain on some of the core features that we've done so well, including, of course, our inventory management, landed costs, manufacturing, and really processing orders in following the trends and the latest marketplaces to sell product, including all of the web stores that we've added over the years, and we continue to add as our customers demand them. In terms of how we release Acctivate version 10, this is not an upgrade that you have to go back and buy the software. It is on software maintenance. So as long as you're up to date on software maintenance on the release date, which will be in the next couple weeks, or if you'd like it now, you can contact our support team and we'll start scheduling those upgrades. But as we make the general release, you'll be able to download it from the help site, and you'll get all this functionality based on your modules. So the things I showed today about lot numbers, the lot number and track and trace, those are add-on modules for version 10. So you will need to talk to our sales team about that. Also, credit card processing is built into the product. There's no additional charge from Alterity for using QuickBooks Merchant Service or Authorize.net, but obviously there will be credit card fees and charges, so you do need to contact those third parties to find out what their fees are. And the same thing goes with hosting. The user interface changes and all of that, the ease of entering sales orders and business alerts and exporting to Excel, all of that's in the base product. So most of what I showed today, if you have those features and functions, will be available in version 10. And as I mentioned a few times, definitely work with our team to schedule the upgrades. If you turn around and hang up today and call us and say, I need to upgrade tomorrow, it's a little difficult for us to get everyone upgraded at once. So we will work with you over time. So it will take a little time to get everyone upgraded. We've mostly started with new accounts who are not live yet. They're not in production. So they can give us feedback on it in training, and it doesn't disrupt their business in any way. So we will work with you over the next couple of weeks. And of course, any questions or any follow-up, you've got our information, you've got our contact information. We're definitely here to help and here to answer any questions you've got and really make the upgrade process very easy and seamless. So thank you again for joining us for about an hour today, and I hope you really enjoy the software update. Your feedback's always appreciated. Thank you so much.